Are you sure this is the way to the Chamber of Longevity?
Stay close. It could get dangerous. Yeah, that's what I thought. Inferior products can never go the distance.
Should we go on?
Of course, Rob. We have nothing to fear at the ORAC scale.
What does all this mean?
After 15 years searching the world, we found the right place.
Elixir of life.
Wait! Something doesn't smell right. It may be booby-trapped, since the ancient truths have been corrupt and forgotten. Adulterated oils, deadly.
Well,
What?
if you haven't seen Indiana Jones, then none of that makes sense. So
But even if you haven't, it's still really, you don't have to have seen it to notice the.
It is super cheesy. I'm sure it cost a buttload of money to make. That's from 2002, and I find it. I have a lot of other videos set up to intro the rest of the transcription readings, like from Ecuador. But I just thought it was funny that he said how dangerous adulterated oils were when, like, we've been reading in the transcripts, Young Living's oils are adulterated. So I just thought that was just the cheesy intro we needed. If you're new, if this is the first Young Living transcript video you've seen, we're deep into the transcripts at this point. This is transcript number 3. We're on the total number of page, we're on page 483 overall for the entire transcripts. And we've made
good progress.
We have. The reason that we're reading through this is to, I feel like, to help people who are still in Young Living, like, see the scope of who Gary Young was on the stand, some of the stuff that came out in the trial, him moonlighting as a doctor, being part of the surgical team, making his employees watch his surgeries. And you might think, oh, you're just lying. It's in the transcripts, it's in the evidence, it's in the exhibit. So it's I obviously don't want to force you into believing something that you refuse to believe, but we're reading this, we're showing it on the screen. You can look up these transcripts yourself. So I think it's important, and that's what we're doing. I'm going to be making Spark Notes videos of, like, a roundup for each transcript document so that you can catch up if you decide, wow, this is incredible, I love reading transcripts. You're going to be able to catch up, and I'm going to work on those this weekend. And we're not too, there's still a lot of transcripts left, so hope that y'all stay and enjoy us and join us for the rest of the readings. Yeah, I'm DeeCee. I'm an MLM dropout. I left Young Living this year, April 2022, and I believed the seed to seal promise. And when that's not the reason I left, I've just found out all of the other stuff after I have left, and it's been a wild ride. And when the reason I left is how I came across Kira, who runs her MLM Mombi channel on Instagram. She also has a website, and Kira was the one that introduced me to Kat. Kat and Kira have done a ton of activism, taking down multi-level marketing companies. Black Oxygen Organics was one they did a ton of work on, and Black Oxygen Organics has been shut down from what I understand. Yeah. And so I'm going to pass the microphone over to Kat, let her introduce herself if she is new to you on my channel. Yes, so I'm going to pass it over to Kat.
Yeah, so my name is Kat. I'm a licensed registered dietitian nutritionist, and I typically, within MLM sphere and activism, all MLMs I think are not good, not something that I want to support, but I focus in on the nutrition related ones that have dieting programs, nutrition programs, supplements of any kind, doing deep dives of the company's products and their programs, and then also other fear-mongering nutrition claims, because nutrition claims are one of my least favorite things. So yeah, there's a channel. And I was in another nutrition related MLM for several years. And I started making content about anti-MLM, probably, was it 2020? I think it was 2020. Yeah. Or 2019. I think it was 2020 though, when I moved. So yeah.
Cool. And I just also want to give a special shout out. The reason that I even have these transcripts is because of Kira. Kira, again, I mentioned it before, but Mombi, she does a ton of activism, a ton of work behind the scenes, a ton of things that she doesn't get public acknowledgement from, because she is trying to work with whistleblowers and her sources, and she always protects them. So sometimes we get to see some of the content other times it goes straight from the source to the FTC or the FDA or other bodies of like government bodies or people like lawyers to try to take down these companies. So just want to give Kira her kudos. Not that she ever asked for them or she's been doing this for a long time, but I just want to acknowledge like how much work she continues to do, and just incredibly grateful that she even gave me the transcripts and she is giving them to other creators. The whole point is to get as many eyes on this information as possible, and to spread the word about multi-level marketing and sometimes the deception that happens, sometimes the unethical business practices that happen. And that's what we're doing. Kat and I are not lawyers. We are just reading these transcripts. Anything that we read, if we get it wrong, it's because we're not lawyers. And none of this is going to be legal advice. I'm just trying to protect ourselves. Again, it's just us reading our natural responses to what we've read, our reactions based on our experiences as well. So yeah, and I think I have.
And this is publicly available.
And this is publicly available. We are not sharing something that you cannot get access to. Let's see. I think I've covered all my bases. If I haven't, we will amend it. And we have a super amazing helper. Avery behind the scenes is going to be running the comments today. So she's going to be starring questions that Kat and I can answer during our breaks between reading, and she's going to be putting the comments up on the screen so that if you are on part of the replay crew, you're going to be able to see them easily without having to open the chat if you're, on a small phone. So Avery, you're incredible. Thank you so much. Okay. I think we're still in the direct examination of the witness. So I'm going to go ahead and I still need to tag my last one, but I'm going to go ahead and run our little ink thing. And then, so direct examination of Rob James, and then we will get into it. All right. Okay, live chat, you're going to get to decide which voice do you want us to have a voice mod for. Baby Snark is allocated to Gary Young, but here we have a couple of other options. We have Monster, or we have, and I'll probably have to do the reading because I'm the one that has the voice mod on my end, but live chat. So I'll give you a couple of samples. Let's see. This is the Monster.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. So that's an option.
We have, I don't know what this is.
Testing. Oh no, that's not it. Oh wait, that sounds like a monster, but better. Okay.
This one's a megaphone, which is not fun.
This one's a large robot. It's a little hard to hear. And this one's a tiny robot. That's harder to hear. I think the monster's the best one.
So those are the monsters.
I think the monster's the best one.
And yes, monster's the best. Yes, I think the monster's the best one. We'll have to see. Kat, who should be the monster? I don't think the judge should be the monster because she's the best.
No, it would be.
Maybe, let's see.
I mean, do you want to just have the witness or?
Sure, the witness can be. Well, the witness can be the monster. Okay, monster has a vote. Okay, great. So I'll be the witness. Kat can be Mr. Berger again, and then when we do the recross. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, Gaylord too, or?
Yeah. Who? Yeah. Let's do monsters for the
Young Living, or?
Yeah, for the Young Living, we can have the monster voice, and then we can figure out what to do for the other people. Just trying to make it lighter because this is dry sometimes, for sure.
Baby Snark Gary is the best.
Yes, we'll just.
Baby Snark is the best, and it will always be the best. It'll be number one.
Okay, so I think we're on page 143. I think we were. You wanted to start from the top again?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so
tabs. Okay, judge, right?
Yep, starting with the judge court that you did or did not.
Okay, Mr. Gaylord. Hold on, I got it.
Did not, Your Honor, want the court. Oh, wait, this is not supposed to be young.
living. Okay, did not, Your Honor, want the court to understand. But oh wait, I'd be Mr. No, the witness is going to be it, right? Sorry. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, we were. I know. I said Mr. Gaylord, but yeah, that's a defendant attorney. So yeah.
Yeah. So we do you want me to read Mr. Berger? Mr. Berger can be a monster, or do you want the witness just to be the monster?
Chat. Well, it's up to you because it's on your end. So whatever.
Yeah. We'll have to wait for chat to let us know. We're on a little bit of a delay.
Yes.
Because Mr. Berger has a lot of speaking parts for sure. So it might be more fun for Mr. Berger to be.
Well, then if it's Mr. Berger, then
Mr.
I would
Berger
have to be the witness, which I can do.
Yeah, I'll be Mr. Berger. That's fine.
Okay.
And
All
you
right,
want to be all of the other attorneys. Yep.
Okay, so I'll be the other and then the witness.
Perfect.
Okay.
So
Got
Mr. Gaylord, you're Mr. Gaylord.
Okay.
No, Mr. Berger.
Perfect. All right. So Mr. Gaylord did not, Your Honor, want the court to understand.
And there's 3 responses if you'd like.
As the court, go ahead.
First, they waived the hearsay objection. Second, the email is related to the time of solicitations. Third, Mr. Smith used this in his opening.
We have no. Is that me? Yeah, it is. We have no objections, Your Honor. We withdraw the objections for admission. Yeah, we'll withdraw it. And the court said I'll receive 39.
Could you put that up, Susan? The email at the bottom of the page. So I want to direct your attention to this email that you sent to David Sterling on February 22nd, 2008. Subject, Carol Truman, correct? Do you see that?
Yeah. Can I actually have a quick break?
Okay.
And the court said, yes, we can have a break. Mr. Harrison had to use a restroom. Or is it Harrison? I can. Just a bathroom break. And the court said, that's fine. We can do that. It's 12:30. So we'll say about 10 minutes. I'll admonish the jury not to discuss the case.
Okay, I think this is pointless. So they all just take a break, and it's the jury left the courtroom, recess taken.
Oh, I wanted to hear the monster sing. Are we eating lunch?
Are we eating lunch if it's 12:30?
Okay, now we can move forward.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Go on. Okay. Okay, go ahead. So here we're back. Go ahead, counsel. Thank you. Maybe seated. We'll pick up where we left off. Okay. Mr.
Okay.
Berger.
All right. Good morning, Mr. James.
I think that's me though.
Yes, it is.
You're good. Good morning, Mr. James.
Hi.
So you testified a little bit about phone conversations that you had and Wendy and Gina had with Justin Harrison on February 7th, 2008, correct?
Correct.
And you also talked about a meeting toward the end of February 2008 at Gina Truman's house, correct?
Yes.
Regarding doTERRA, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and during that time, do you recall having any discussions with Boyd Truman about doTERRA?
I'm not sure when that date was when that happened. We had breakfast and talked about doTERRA. I'm not sure what the date was when that happened.
Okay, you're not sure whether that was in February of 2008?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay, and did you introduce Mr. Truman, Boyd Truman, to doTERRA?
Yeah, we were very good friends, and I talked to him about doTERRA.
Okay, let's turn back to Exhibit 39, which I believe you had in front of you before our break.
Okay.
And if you'll look at that email, actually, if you look at page 1, at the bottom, there's an email that you sent to David Sterling on February 22nd, 2008. Do you see that email?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. And turn to page 2, please. Actually, let me ask you. This email is about a conversation you had with Carol Truman, correct? Carol with a K, Truman?
Yes.
You say at the beginning, I got an interesting call from KWAK last night. Carol with a K, correct?
Correct.
Turn to page 2 in this February 22nd, 2008 email you wrote the second paragraph, Susan. Quote, what she doesn't know, end quote. And you're referring to Carol with a K, Truman, quote, what she doesn't know is she has 3 loyal doTERRAites in Gina, her daughter, Boyd, her son, and Delmont, her husband, who all know of and are committed to doTERRA. It's sadly funny, end quote. You write, correct?
Correct.
So Boyd Truman knew about doTERRA, at least by the time you wrote your email. It was a truthful statement, correct?
I'm sure the breakfast was before this, yes.
Thank you. So let me ask you, Mr. James, about the February 28th meeting, February 28th, 2008, meeting that was at Gina's house concerning doTERRA. Could you please turn to Exhibit 221?
Okay.
Are you there? Okay. That's an email exchange between. Oh, well, excuse me, there were 2 emails there. And the first email in time is actually the second email on the page. It's dated February 28th, 2008. And it's an email from you to David Sterling, David Hill, Emily Wright, Greg Cook, and Jeff Carden. Is that an email you sent on that day to them?
Yeah, looks like it.
The subject is meeting in the George. Is that right?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move the admission of 221.
Mr. Smith says no objection, and the judge says received.
Susan, if you go to Mr. James's email, the first paragraph. So this is your email, Mr. James, that you sent to Mr. Sterling and others on February 28th, 2008. And that's concerning that doTERRA meeting in St. George on February 28th, correct?
Yes.
And, and you write in the first paragraph to Mr. Sterling, I just wanted to give a quick report on the meeting before heading to bed. What an exciting thing! Justin did a fantastic job. Oh, end quote. Gosh darn it, sorry. I want to skip down to the third paragraph. I'll just point this out. Susan, actually blow it up so people can see it, please. Quote, anyway, what a fun historical night. Even the YL crowd was impressed, end quote. Did you write those statements, Mr. James?
Yes.
So clearly, Justin Harrison was at the meeting.
Yes.
Quote, the YL crowd was impressed, end quote. Who from the YL crowd was there at that meeting?
I only remembered Gina for sure. Probably Tom was there, and I don't remember if Boyd and Sandy were there.
They may have been, they may not have been, correct?
Yeah.
Do you remember whether Mr. Sterling was there?
No.
Was Miss Wright there?
No.
Do you recall what Mr. Harrison said at the meeting?
I just remember one thing about oils where he said that lemon, lavender, peppermint make a great antihistamine.
Okay, and he was talking about doTERRA's oils, correct?
Yeah.
Did he talk about the doTERRA opportunity?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did he talk about the doTERRA compensation plan?
I don't think so. And just a side note, lemon, lavender, peppermint oil are not a replacement for an antihistamine.
Yes, seriously. Like, but if you're listening to this and you're gonna grab it out of context, it's and Young Living still preaches that too, in our Facebook groups.
Not that I'm in them anymore. Okay.
You have to
Okay.
be undercover.
Yeah. Okay, do you remember whether he signed anybody up to doTERRA that night?
I don't think we had a way to do that yet. I'm not sure.
Did anyone express to you their interest in joining doTERRA?
Mr. Gaylord says objection. The judge says, was there an objection? And Mr. Gaylord says hearsay. The judge says response.
Just that the words were stated, Your Honor.
The court says sustained.
Do you remember, were there any forms passed out during that meeting?
I don't know. I don't remember.
You don't remember any?
I don't recall. Yes.
You don't recall whether any distributor agreements were passed out in the meeting?
Correct. I don't recall.
Okay. Let me ask you to turn to... Did I move on to 21? I think I did. Yes, that's been received.
The court says it's been received. Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, could you turn to Exhibit 86, Mr. James, specifically page 13?
13, you say?
Yes, page 13. So, in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see some pagination. It says EX86, and then there are some numbers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Okay.
And do you recognize your signature on that document?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see the date next to your signature of February 28th, 2008, correct?
Yes.
And did you date that document?
I'm sure I did. Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I move exhibit. Well, this will be a sub-exhibit. It's one page from a larger exhibit. Perhaps we can call it 86A.
Mr. Smith says, how about 8613 since that's the page?
Sure, love it. Thank you.
Mr. Smith says no objection. Gaylord, no objection. The court says, I don't see page 13.
It's me. Mr. Berger, in the lower right-hand corner, Your Honor.
The court says, I see 86.0001. Mr. Smith says, do you see a 3 there too? The court says, no, just the 1. Mr. Smith, you're on the wrong page. Go back to page 13. The court says, I see. Thank you. So you want 13? Okay.
Correct. Is there a stipulation on that? Is that right?
And Mr. Smith says, no objection, Your Honor. The court says, I'll receive that.
Okay. That will be 86-13 for the record. And so, Mr. James, did you sign this document at that February 28th meeting at Gina's home?
I assume I did.
Do you remember who gave it to you at that meeting?
No.
Oops. Do you remember any explanation as to why you were asked to sign that document?
No.
Let me ask you just a question or two about it. This says at the top, Susan, can you scroll down for just a moment? It says, quote, doTERRA request for information, end quote. I'll read along. Quote, I, Robert and Wendy James, hereby solicit and request information of marketing, products, and opportunities associated with doTERRA International LLC, defined as the company. The company is requiring this request for information before discussing or describing the company, its business, products, or any opportunities therewith. End quote. Did I read that correctly, Mr. James?
Yes.
That statement is not true, is it?
Not true?
Correct. You have heard about doTERRA before you signed that document on February 28th, 2008, correct?
Yes.
And you don't remember why you were asked to sign that document?
No.
Let me ask you here are some memory questions for you.
Sure.
I'm not sure how any of us would do on these questions, okay? So I'll preface it that way. I want to ask you to authenticate some cell phone numbers that you used.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I'm just going to redact this. Redact. Ooh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, I just had to redact those. I will try. Timestamp is 32. I'll remember the timestamp. Sorry. Okay.
No, you're good.
I want to ask you to authenticate some cell phone numbers that you used. Okay.
Do you want to
two.
start at the beginning so that when you redact it, it'll make sense? So I answer, okay. No.
Let me ask you here are some memory questions for you.
Sure.
I'm not sure how any of us would do on these questions, okay? So I'll preface it that way. I want to ask you to authenticate some cell phone numbers that you used.
Okay.
Did you use a cell phone number back in 2007 and 2008? It's redacted, so sorry.
Yes.
Let me ask you about your old home phone number. Did you use the number redacted as your old home number back in 2007 and 2008?
Yes.
You no longer have that number, but you did in 2008, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then lastly, do you recognize this number? It's a little bit of a trick question. Redacted.
Yes. It's my wife.
There you go. Okay, that's why it was a trick question. You passed, and we'll let her know.
Okay.
And Mr. James, let me ask you if you'd agree with this statement. So let me set the time frame. So in January of 2008, it's true, wasn't it, that most of your MLM connections were with young living people, correct?
Mr. Smith says objection, vague as to term. The court says, why don't you rephrase?
Mr. Berger, well, as of, let's say, January 3rd, 2008, it's true that most of your MLM connections were with young living people, correct?
Mr. Smith says objection, vague. And the court says overruled.
Could you answer, please?
The only connection I had with Young Living at the time was with the Trumans, and I'm not sure if that was more or less than the number or of other contacts we had that we were working with.
So you're saying that's not true?
I'm saying, and then Mr. Smith says objection, asked and answered. The court says overruled.
I didn't hear an answer. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I said I don't know.
Okay. Why don't you look at Exhibit 33, please? If you can go to page 2 of the document, Mr. James. Look at the very last paragraph and the third sentence, please.
Okay. And Mr. Smith says objection. Document shouldn't be shown to the witness, and there's no request to refresh his memory.
He just said.
The court says he didn't say he didn't remember. I'll allow it for purpose to refresh his recollection.
Mr. James, do you see that the third sentence that starts with the word, quote, I, end quote?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection as to whether or not most of your connections were with Young Living as of January 3rd, 2008?
It doesn't help my memory at all. I know that, like I say, that most of the people I was working with were the Trumans in the Young Living line, and probably a handful of others that were just had other business that were involved with other businesses or had other jobs, but not Young Living.
Okay, all right. So let me ask you, the pages 2 through 4 of Exhibit 33, were those true when you wrote them?
Yeah, they're true.
Okay. When you don't remember much of the subject matter of what you've written. Oh. But you don't remember much of the subject matter of what you've written on these pages, do you?
No.
And you believe that they would have been accurate at the time you wrote them.
Yes.
Your Honor, we move the admission of Exhibit 33 as a recorded recollection.
Mr. Smith says objection. A document that's used to refresh memory cannot be admitted by the party offering it. Mr. Gaylord said, it's hearsay too. It's already been excluded by hearsay. And the court says, what's been cited is an exception to the hearsay rule, so I did exclude it on grounds of hearsay, but...
Now, we're not just talking about the one sentence that refreshed recollection portion. He said, laid the groundwork for it to come in as a recorded recollection. It's not a matter he once knew. I don't know if you want me to continue arguing, Your Honor. I was just going to go through the elements.
The court says, you're just asking for that portion of the last paragraph of paragraph 2, page 2?
No, he's testified that pages 2 through 4 of Exhibit 33 are recorded recollections within the meaning of the hearsay rule as exceptions to hearsay. Your Honor, a matter he once knew but cannot recall.
Mr. Gaylord says, can we approach? The court says yes, and a sideboard discussion was had. Mr. Gaylord, just for the record, Your Honor, the objection is sustained for now. Is that right? In terms of what the court says, it's reserved. Mr. Gaylord says, thank you.
Mr. Berger, Mr. James, so we're still on Exhibit 33. Do you have that in front of you still?
Yes, sir.
And we talked a little bit about pages 2 through 4 of the exhibit, correct?
Okay.
I'd like to go through. I asked you a couple of questions already about the document and your recollection or lack thereof, but I want to be a little more specific if I could, okay?
Sure.
So, do you have a recollection of sending pages 2 through 4 to David Sterling?
Not a recollection, no.
Okay, and do you see at the very top of page 2, there's a legend in bold? Your Honor, may I?
The court says yes, of course. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Berger says, do you recall writing that, Mr. James?
I don't.
You believe you did write it, though?
Yes.
Okay, and I'd like to read that.
Sure.
Your Honor?
Mr. Gaylord says, same objection, Your Honor. Mr. Smith says it's 403 and 401. The court says, I'll overrule the objection as to 403 and 401. As to 803, I'll allow it.
Okay, so one of my lawyer buddies, I don't know if she wants me to say her name, but she's been helping me with some of this. So there's like rules of evidence, and that's what they're referencing when they say 401, 403. So I just want to like, I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm going to tell you what it is that they are, like what those rules are that they're referencing, and then we'll continue reading. I just need to find it real quick because I thought specifically when they were bringing that up before that it was specific to Utah, but it's not. It's the rules of like evidence or something. And okay.
I thought they were specific to the case.
Yep. And so let me find it. Sorry. There we go. So they're federal rules of evidence. And so they just were talking about 403. 403 is excluding relevant evidence for prejudice, confusion, waste of time, or other reasons. 401 is test for relevant evidence. And then she said, as to 803, I'll allow it. And 803 is exceptions to the rule against hearsay regardless of whether the declarant is available as a witness. I don't exactly know what those are, but I'm gonna start learning about it, but I don't know. I wish I could have a lawyer on here, but my friend is anonymous and my husband is taking a nap. So we'll have to do a video on some of these because they're mostly mentioning 403, 401. I think 402 got mentioned earlier, but those, if y'all want to look them up, I'm looking at law.cornell.edu, and they're the rules, the federal rules of evidence. So not that super helped y'all, but that's what they're referencing when they bring up 401, 403, and 803. Okay. All right. Sorry I had the cord up the whole time.
All
Oh
good.
my
Okay.
goodness.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
24.
Let me go back. Mr. Berger. Mr.
Mr. Berger. Okay. So let me just, the judge has allowed me to read this.
Sure.
At the very top, it states, quote, confidential. Do not read this document without permission from Robert James and David Sterling. This document contains proprietary information, the STG team, end quote. What's, quote, the STG team, end quote, Mr. James?
I would imagine St. George.
Okay, and then could you look at the fourth paragraph?
Okay.
And let me ask you, if you remember that paragraph, the subject matter of that paragraph.
Yeah, I don't remember writing it. I'm sure I did.
Your Honor, may I read that, the first sentence?
Mr. Gaylord says, objection 803-5, A, B, and C, and particularly C. The court says I'll allow it.
Okay,
Just for this one time, I'm just going to click on 803 and I'm
Gonna see what he's allowing.
yeah, so there, let me pull it up on my let me pull this off real quick. Sorry live stream. We are just trying to give a little more clarity. Let me just do law.cornell.edu.
Do you hear music in the background by chance?
I don't, but
okay. My neighbors are having a party and I'm looking out at the camera and I see people outside walking around.
Okay. Let's see. Federal rules of evidence. Oh, come on. Sorry.
My dog stepped on a bee.
Literally. Oh my god. Classic. Let's see. Here we go. All right. Let me pull it back up. All right. So this is Rule 805 within hearsay. And so on our document, they were saying with like this. Oh, it's not going to say the. I'll forget it. I'll just have to get my friend to. She's sending me a book so that I know what they're talking about because there's obviously specific pieces. 803-5. Oh, I was in the wrong one. I'm an idiot. Okay. No, I'm not. I'm not an idiot. I'm just. Okay. 803-5. Here we go. 803. Exceptions to the rule against hearsay. 803-5. Recorded recollection. And then, so she. Sorry. So they said objection 803-5, A, B, and C, particularly C. And so 803-5, recorded recollection, a record that A, is on a matter the witness once knew about, but now cannot recall well enough to testify fully and accurately. B, was made or adopted by the witness when the matter was fresh in the witness's memory. And C, accurately reflects the witness's knowledge. So, I don't know exactly what that means, but that's what they're talking about, just to give you an idea. Not that that really helps us at all, but at least we know it's out there. So if y'all want to look into it more, you can. So
it gives more of the context of how the judge kind of was thinking about it and what they thought was appropriate. Yeah. Makes sense.
I can't see starred questions. Were there any starred questions so far?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll allow it, says the court.
Okay. It's me.
Mr. James, it states, quote, ever since your company's meeting the other day, this is in your document you sent to David Sterling. Ever since your company meeting the other, The other day, end quote. This is since your company's meeting the other day. Oh God, sorry, I'm gonna start over. Mr. James, it states, quote, ever since your company's meeting the other day, end quote. This is in your document you sent to David Sterling, quote, ever since your company's meeting the other day, I've been inundated with thoughts, ideas, and questions, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Can you read the last paragraph on that page just to yourself, Mr. James?
The last paragraph on the page or the rest of it?
Last paragraph on page 2 of Exhibit 33.
Okay.
Mr. James, do you remember that subject matter?
Vaguely.
Mr. Berger said, Your Honor, I would propose to read until the word, quote, and, end quote. So the first 1, 2, 3, well, 4 sentences. So including the sentence that begins with, quote, and, end quote. First 4 sentences of that last paragraph.
Mr. Gaylord says objection. 803-5. There we see it again. And the witness says, you want me to read it?
Not yet, the judge will tell us.
I'm sorry. And the court says, I think we've hit A. Why don't we get a little bit more on B and C on that one?
Your Honor, I think we did B and C broadly at the beginning of these questions. I would submit to Your Honor.
I think it was, the court says, I think it was a little better developed with the other ones.
Okay. Mr. James, I believe you testified that you wrote pages 2 through 4 of Exhibit 33 on or around January 3rd, 2008. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And were you having conversations with Mr. Sterling at that time about the potential for being a doTERRA distributor?
I believe me and my wife had began to assume that that's what he had wanted us to be.
Okay. And did you write these pages 2 through 4, around the time that you were having those conversations with Mr. Sterling?
I wouldn't remember, but yeah, I wouldn't remember for sure when it was, except the date on the email.
January 3rd, 2008?
Yes.
Do you have any reason to think that you did not write pages 2 through 4 around the time? Pardon?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Around the time that you were talking with Mr. Sterling about the subject matter of pages 2 through 4.
No.
And you believe that pages 2 through 4 were accurate when you wrote them?
Yes.
Okay.
They are accurate, except, can I expound on it?
The question is, do they accurately reflect your knowledge at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
The court says I'll allow it.
Thank you. I'll read to you those first 4 sentences, Mr. James, since the judge has permitted me to do it. Quote, our previous conversations seem to point to an opportunity to be a distributor, to which I/we would be outrageously excited and agreeable. I have to tell/warn you that most of our MLM connections are with YL people. I'm trying to decide how to best approach them when the time comes, end quote. Have I read that accurately?
Yes.
Could you turn to page 3 and do you see the second paragraph under the bold heading? Let me point out to make sure we're on the same page. Yes. And Mr. James, I'll ask you the same question. Sorry to be repetitive, but do you have a recollection of the subject matter of that paragraph?
I don't know some of the names, but I remember yes.
You've forgotten some of the names?
Yes.
Okay. I think, Your Honor, I think that would be sufficient to read those as well.
Mr. Gaylord says objection. 803-5, and the court says overruled.
And then Mr. Berger, Mr. James, I'll read this paragraph of your document that you sent to Mr. Sterling in January of '08. Quote, Operation Smooth Move. When the time is right, we will be moving fast to marshal our big fish like the Trumans, Justin Harrison, Thomas Oldroyd, Marcella Von Harding, Terry Williams, Dastrups, and Sherry Ross, and numerous others. We have others that are majorly involved with other companies, like Zango and PureWorks. I'm not as worried about their transition as I am about what Wendy and I have codenamed Trueline, primarily the Trumans and Oldroyds. Wendy and I would call this Operation Smooth Move. End quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes. And Zango and PureWorks just sound like MLMs if you've never heard of them.
Yes. Let me blow my nose real quick. Sorry.
There is a certain kind of, I don't know, just when you hear certain companies, business names, when you're like, that's an MLM. And it happens very often. Even today, there was one that I found randomly through someone on Facebook, and I Googled it. It was an MLM that I'd never heard of, but it was an MLM. No, it was on
It's
Instagram.
funny. It's funny, like their names are so like identifiable. No, we're not connecting. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, let's see. Are we on line 16?
8.
Or 8? 8. Okay.
Your Honor, that's all I'll do with that document.
Mr. Gaylord says, just want to be sure that the court has denied the admissibility of this exhibit. The court says, yes, the exhibit isn't going to go back, but those portions have been read into the record. That's all. Mr. Gaylord responds with, thank you.
So let's turn back to page 86, excuse me, exhibit 86.
Okay.
And that's a multi-page document, but before you look at that, let me ask you, when you signed exhibit 86-13, Susan, could you put that up, please? Thank you. That was quick. Mr. James, when you signed this document on February 28th, 2008, do you remember anyone else? Did you see anyone else signing a document like that?
I don't recall.
You don't know one way or the other?
Yes.
Okay, so just to conclude, Mr. James, you testified that Mr. Sterling is a friend of yours, correct?
Yes.
He's a good friend of yours, right?
Yes.
At the time he invited you to join doTERRA, you were having financial issues, correct?
Yes.
But you're not anymore, are you?
No.
You're financially successful at doTERRA, correct?
Mr. Gaylord says, objection, relevance. The court says, what's the relevance? Mr. Smith says, we have an instruction and motion to eliminate on this objection with an instruction.
Oops.
And the court says, what's the relevance?
Mr. Berger says it goes to bias.
Mr. Smith says, we have a motion on in limine on this, the court granted.
Mr. Berger says, Your Honor, I don't think it covered that specific issue.
Mr. Smith says, with a jury instruction, and the court says, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Mr. Berger says, I imagine, Mr. James, you consider yourself very loyal to doTERRA, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Sterling as well?
Yes. Mr. Berger says, thank you.
Yes, and I accidentally highlighted that wrong. Okay.
Let's take a break. Let's take a chat break. And
I just saw the purple and I went for it.
I know, literally that's my fault. Chat, how you doing? How's it going? We have the incredible Avery in the background handling the chat, putting the comments on the screen, just being amazing. Wow. I didn't realize they were going to end that fast. We're about to do the cross-examination. We're at 56 minutes. Do we want to try to do the first cross-examination? Well, let's just look at that 1, 2.
I don't see
three,
why not.
4, 5, 6, 7.
It's up to you since I know we had to change the time a little bit.
Yeah, no, you're good. I'm just gonna see if I messed up these because there's not a lot of. Oh, there aren't. The cool thing is there's not a bunch of objections, so there's going to be a lot of talking back and forth. So we may be able to get through until the next, like the cross from Mr. Gaylord, because Mr. Smith is going to do the first cross.
Full one.
Yeah. Let's see. Wait, oh, I have it. Gosh darn it. I highlighted this cross examination. Okay,
Who's
so
going to be the witness right now? Still same one?
Yep, it's Mr. James. Yeah, so 233 is so 167 to 233. So that's almost 100 pages, but there's not a lot of objections. So I think we might be able to get through it in an hour.
Okay. I'll try.
If you can't, that's okay. You can pause it. Not Mr. Berger monster giving Susan a negative compliment. Yes, Avery is the best. Avery is the best. All right. Okay. All right. Let's put this back up on the screen. What are y'all's thoughts about Rob James so far? I mean, I'm not really I don't know what they're trying to establish other than he sent emails that he was specifically going to target young living distributors, and he was in doTERRA. I think that's, from what I understand, that's what he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, he sounds like he knew what he was doing, but
yeah, I put up the comment that complimented Avery because I know Avery's not going to put it up herself, and she admitted as much in the chat. So I'm trying to find all the good ones about Avery. Yes, we just binged. Thank you so much. If you don't already subscribe to Kat, I'd love for you to go over and support her on her channel too. She's in the big leagues. She has like almost 5,000 subscribers, it's incredible. So
I need to be more active.
No, I mean, I'm taking up a bunch of your time too, and you're also like running a full-time business and keeping, all of your home running well, and yeah.
I was hearing weird noises. It was an elephant, a little sound book with animal noises.
God.
Like, what is that?
Oh, perfect. Okay. Awesome.
Rob who? Haven't heard a word he said.
Yes. Mr. Polite Demon. Oh my gosh. I guess Mr. Smith, is Mr. Smith going to have a normal voice because he's Team doTERRA? Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, Mr. Smith.
I wish Gary could be here.
I wish. Yes, we
really miss Gary Young. It's been a big loss, a big miss today for this transcript reading.
Okay. Okay, so I'll be Mr. Smith. Let me just swap out. Swap. Mr. Smith, we missed you, buddy. Okay, Mr. Smith. Hi, Mr. James.
Hello.
Nice to meet you this morning. How are you?
Good.
I take it from that last set of questions that they're suggesting you'd lie for Mr. Sterling. Would you tell an untruth for him?
I would never. No.
Would he ever ask you to tell an untruth?
He would never ask me to.
Has he ever asked you to tell an untruth?
He'd ask me to tell the truth.
Has anything you've testified to today been untruthful?
No.
I think the first thing we ought to start with is, were you ever a young living distributor?
Nope.
So when apparently at some point in time, oh gosh darn it, Mr. Berger.
Your Honor, excuse me, I object to that. And can we have a sidebar, please?
The court says yes, and a sidebar discussion was had.
Mr. Smith, the question was, were you ever a young living distributor? And your answer is
no.
How about your wife? Was she ever a young living distributor?
No.
In one of these emails that was identified a few moments ago, there's some mention about a young living downline. Do you remember that kind of email that was shown to you and admitted into evidence?
Yes, I remember it.
Have you ever kind of used the term YL downline before?
Yes.
What does that mean?
I think it was referring to Carol with the K's downline.
Carol with a K?
Yes. Carol Truman. Sorry.
And Carol Truman, can you explain to the jury why you would use that term YL downline in describing any relationship she had?
Why do they continuously say Carol with the K?
I don't know. I need to start doing a hashtag Carol with a K.
Carol with the K.
Holy cow.
Okay. I did a lot of work for Carol with the K. And she, of course, was a Young Living distributor and had a lot of work to do with them. And I helped with that, a lot of it. A lot of those things with the newsletters and some meetings and some of her correspondence with Young Living. But I was never a Young Living distributor myself.
And the same for your wife?
Yes.
Now, when did you learn? It sounds to me, counsel asked this, it sounds to me at some point you lost track of David Sterling. Is that accurate?
There was a time when we didn't email much. We wouldn't see each other. We didn't see each other for a long time.
Okay. Did you know he was working at Young Living?
No.
Okay. And the reason, if I could display Exhibit 184, the reason I bring this up is in your email. Let me get it for you in front of you. It's exhibit, it might be in the book counsel had for you.
Okay.
184. If you look at that exhibit, there's 2 emails there. One at the bottom dated September 17th, and then one on the top dated September 1st. Do you see that?
Yes.
I take it the one on the bottom is from you to David Sterling. Is that accurate?
Yes.
There's a mention in there about it is a quote, "It is amazing you called and that you work for Young Living," end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Was that the first time you learned that David Sterling worked for Young Living, when you had a conversation with him just before this email was sent?
Yes. During his visit. Yes.
Okay. So while he had been there from 2003 to 2007, that 4-year period, you didn't know he was working at Young Living.
No.
So even though you were doing help for Carol Truman, you had never come across his name in any of those communications on or on the behalf of Carol Truman. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Did you talk to him about oils on the phone the first time? Do you remember?
I don't believe so. I'm sure we didn't, because the first time I even knew he worked for Young Living was when he came and visited our house.
Did he tell you on the phone he had been fired from YL?
He told us either in the face-to-face meeting or in a subsequent emails, but not here.
Okay. He just used the term, quote, "formerly worked," end quote. In other words, had worked for Young Living. Is that correct?
I guess so. Yeah. I guess, yeah.
See how he wrote the word, quote, "worked for YL," end quote?
Yeah.
Does that mean he told you he was not then working for YL?
It could be.
You don't recall?
I don't recall.
Then it says down here, quote, "good to have your input unless you're sick of talking YL and Gary Young," end quote. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You knew who Mr. Young was apparently at this point in time.
Yes.
How did you know who Mr. Young was?
Through Carol with a K. Carol Truman.
And Mr. Sterling wrote back to you up at the top of that email, and he said, "It was read by your counsel in the 3rd paragraph down, quote, I'll never grow tired of talking about essential oils," end quote. That was his comment?
Yes.
Did he talk to you at all in or about this time, mid-September of 2007, about his desire to go forward with another essential oil company, or did that come up later?
I think later his visit was this face to face. He was still trying to decide on what to do with things. And I don't know if I'm not sure.
Counsel asked you about how you were financially when David Sterling showed up in that fall, September 2007. Let's get the dates right first. Did he show up first after these emails to your home?
Yes.
Do you remember how many days or weeks it was after he showed up?
I don't by memory, but I could be looking at the dates. Yeah, so he came, I can't remember.
God, you can't remember. Okay, let's talk about memory for a moment.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just trying to keep my stuff plugged in. Sorry. There we go. When in September of 2007, did you have any physical ailments that affected your memory?
I
I'm
had
okay with that one, huh?
I
No.
had a stroke probably half a year before that.
And as a result of that stroke, did you have any impairment of your memory?
Yeah, I did. Oh, poor dude.
And how serious was the impairments when you had that stroke before September of 2007?
I couldn't remember things from a long ways back, or I couldn't remember things close, a week away. It's kind of a hit and miss what I couldn't remember.
There were some things you could remember and some things you couldn't.
Yeah.
Did that
This
change?
dude has a legitimate excuse, not like Gary.
Yeah, not like freaking Gary Young.
Oh,
Oh, man. Did that change at any time between that stroke and the September 2007 time period up to when your deposition was taken, I think in 2014? Had that changed over 7 years?
Yeah, I think I had a little better recollection of some things, but I still had problems.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you say that you had some better memory in that time period?
Yes.
And then after the deposition in 2014, have you had any more strokes?
Oh, yeah. 2 mini strokes
Oh,
and another almost major one.
this is so sad. Sorry. The major one, if the ones are called mini, the major one, a bigger one, that's how that's described.
Yeah.
Did any of those strokes affect your memory?
Yeah.
Can you tell the jury how it affected your memory?
Yeah. The bigger one kind of wiped out a ton and made it really hard to recall things even within a couple weeks. But yeah, my long-term memory, things just got blotted out. Some things just disappeared totally.
Does anyone in your family ever go to you to ask when certain events occurred?
No.
Is there kind of a joke in your family that your memory is not the one that they'd go to ask if something happens?
Yes. Oh, that's so sad.
I know you have a couple of boys in the room here.
Yeah.
How is your memory today? How would you describe it generally?
Same as things that are recent. I have some things I can't remember, but things that are far away, same thing. Some things are bad and some things are okay.
And let me just see if we talked about people. Let's see if we can't get for the jury some relationships. Your wife's name is Wendy?
Yes.
And when did you marry Wendy? I don't mean to test your memory, but can you give us maybe the decade or the year?
Can I ask?
She's not here, so you're not going to get in trouble.
I think it was 95.
Oh. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to say that he's not a reliable person to establish anything helpful for Young Living, and
Mhm.
which is very sad for them to be doing this. I mean, I know they have to, but it makes me sad to know that he doesn't have a good memory because of horrible things that have happened to him.
Yeah, and it gives more context as to why his responses are the way they are.
Yeah.
Unlike
Yep.
Gary.
Unlike Gary Young, yes. And 95, and where did you get married?
In the Las Vegas temple.
And in 1995, when you married her, did she know, to the best of your knowledge, either Gina Truman or Boyd Truman?
Yes, both of them.
How? How did you know that?
Because I was good friends with them too. Well, she was very good friends with Gina. They're best friends. And
have they been best friends since 1995?
Yes.
When you had your stroke before, in the 6 months before 2007, had Gina Truman still been your wife's best friend?
Yes.
Did she assist around the home in an effort to have you be able to rehab and get back into the family?
She might have. I don't remember.
When David Sterling showed up in September of 2007, how would you describe what your home was? Were you living in the home you owned?
Karina, it's okay.
Oh no, you're not. Karina,
You're not. We didn't know this before. None of us knew this before.
I'm gonna blow my nose. Sorry.
In the beginning, and I think it's important, and that's why probably Mr. Smith started to bring this up and ask those questions, because this is kind of what we saw when we were talking about Gary, but he didn't have this happen. So it's important to kind of talk about those differences. But no, you're fine, Karina. Because we didn't know either.
Yeah, Young Living Council was basically saying this, trying to say all these dates and establish that this witness could answer these questions, and then we were confused again because we had that whole setup with Gary Young not being able to recall anything. Then we have this witness not being able to recall stuff, and we find out this witness actually had medical reasons for not being able to recall stuff. So we were being sassy. I totally was being sassy, and he had a stroke, which is incredibly sad. Discord's going wild on my end. Sorry, let me try to turn off notifications. But yeah, we didn't know, and now we know, so we're gonna be.
Yeah,
It's just sad
There's
sad
a reason why he can't recall that we found out now.
Yeah, womp womp. Okay. Well,
We found out together. Okay.
what line are we on? Is it
She might have, I don't remember, number 8.
number 8? Okay. When David Sterling showed up in September of 2007, how would you describe what your home was? Were you living in the home you owned?
No, actually, my father-in-law owned it, and we basically rented it from him.
Was it in good condition, or was it less than perfect condition?
Not great condition, but livable.
Did you have a job?
Yes, I kind of lost one job, and I had another job.
What were you doing?
So I was doing logistics for a trucking company.
Now you have a little bit of a speech problem, not very much, but do you have any problem typing or anything like that?
Yeah, my right hand. I kind of lost a lot of the use of it. My right leg is dead.
Oh, I'm so sad. Okay.
And yeah.
Were those caused by the stroke back in 2007?
Actually, I kind of rehabbed from that pretty good, but the 4th stroke was, even though it wasn't as severe, it did more damage to my arm and leg.
So if I can, let's go back to our timeline. Your wife and Gina were good friends.
Affirmative.
You were living in 2007 in St. George?
Yes.
Was Gina Truman living in St. George in 2007?
Yes.
Was Boyd Truman living with his wife in St. George in 2007?
Yes.
Were you under any type of restriction that prohibited you from contacting any Young Living distributor?
No.
Any type of non-compete agreement that you couldn't compete with Young Living?
No.
Any type of prohibition that you're aware of prohibiting you from carrying out your life in an effort to improve your family's well-being?
Not at all.
Now, at some point in time, you and Mr. Sterling communicated again by email. We've marked already Exhibit 184. Is the same communication you had with him by email that which has been marked as Exhibit 13 in your book to the best of your memory? Can you turn to 1-3:13? Do you see that?
Yeah, December 12th.
Oops, I forgot to highlight that. Mr. Smith, what are you doing? Okay, sorry. Let me just highlight this real quick. Oh, wait, I'm still Mr. Smith. Never mind. Forget it. Sorry. Okay. And if you could display it, the top one has a date of December 12th, 2007, and it's from you to Mr. Sterling. Do you see that?
Yes.
And is that the next email between September, which we just saw a moment ago, and December? Is that the first email that you've had with him that you recall?
I wouldn't recall, but I assume.
Okay. So it may be that you just don't recall one way or the other.
You're right.
You've never seen any other emails between those two dates. Is that accurate?
Right.
On this one, if I could, this is the one that I'd like to blow up for a moment in the second paragraph of the December 12th email. Quote, we just signed, end quote. It just says, quote, we, end quote. That's the one. Quote, we just signed up a person in our YL downline, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
That's the YL downline reference I made a few moments ago that I talked to you about.
Yes.
Is this what you're describing to the jury as the YL downline? That is the Carol Truman downline.
Yes.
Have you ever signed a distributorship agreement from Young Living?
No.
Ever been paid any commissions from YL?
No.
And then it says in here, quote, it's been 3 weeks and she still hasn't gotten anything, end quote. is the quote she, end quote, the person that got signed up in the YL downline in Carol Truman's company?
Okay, yes.
Okay. And then it says you got a call back from somebody you thought was named Justin. Do you see that sentence?
Yes.
Is this the first time that you've spoken to a Justin at Young Living?
Yes.
And who initiated that call? Did you initiate it or did Justin initiate it?
Well, it says call back, so I would imagine he did.
And was he calling on behalf of Young Living?
I'm sure he was.
To fix this fact that whoever had signed up hadn't got any product yet?
Yes. Yes.
It says here, quote, apparently Justin said the kit was destroyed during delivery, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
He was trying to fix whatever the issue was. Is that fair?
Yes.
In the next paragraph down, it says, quote, we also explained, end quote. Wait until it blows up so you can see it. Quote, we also explained that for a few weeks now, we have been asked for some changes to be made to our downline, end quote. Do you see the reference, quote, our downline, end quote?
Yes.
What did you mean when you said, quote, our downline, end quote?
Also, Carol with a K's downline.
Carol with a K. So if every time you say Carol with a K, is it fair to say that's Carol Truman?
I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay. We want to make sure we've got the same person.
Yeah.
Were you sometimes helping Carol with a K with her downline?
With some things, yeah.
When you worked for her, did she require you to sign any type of an agreement which prohibited you from competing?
No.
And then you said, quote, some other problems are going on. I guess you would call petty, end quote. Then you went on to talk about YL. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then let's go to the next paragraph. Actually, the one starts with, quote, so what kind of distribution, end quote. In this agreement, this letter dated December 12th, you wrote to David Sterling and asked him this question. You said, quote, so what kind of distribution are you going to have with the new venture, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
The new venture is what you understood to become doTERRA.
Yes.
Why did you ask that question?
I think I was interested to know what it would look like, the compensation plan.
So you were just trying to find out what the new venture was going to be like.
Yeah.
And by December 12th, you didn't know it yet, correct?
Apparently not. Yeah.
Okay. And then you asked him to keep you informed. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yes.
And then you said, quote, or if there is, end quote. There was a word, quote, if, end quote, there. Quote, or if there is a need for a strong leg, end quote. What were you suggesting there? That you would build a leg if it was going to be an MLM?
I assume I was suggesting that.
What does, quote, a strong leg, end quote, mean? Is that used in the term in the MLM business?
Probably.
How is, quote, strong leg, end quote, used in MLM?
So just a good line of people that are all active in that are active and working well.
Working to sell the product?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Okay, stop. Hold on. I'm going to highlight. I'm just going to take a pause for a second. Here's the thing. He might have answered this, but I'm just telling you this in terms of me being in Young Living and talking about a strong leg. Strong leg isn't referred to as someone who's selling a lot of product. It's referred to as someone who has people actively signing up other distributors into that leg. So if you have a dead leg, that means that I technically was a dead leg because I was just buying monthly and I was where they would stack people where they needed to build volume. I wasn't signing anybody up. So I was dead, meaning the person above me was doing most of the work to build my downline. So that is what anyone who's in an MLM, I don't think would say that that's correct for.
Like they were trying to make you into a strong leg, trying to do the work.
Yeah. And characteristically, a strong leg is someone who actively recruits and is good at recruiting. So anyways, okay. Not that means anything, but that's whatever.
In other words, I was not a strong leg for my upline.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't, for sure. And that's what's called a strong leg. It's just a leg underneath you.
Mm-hmm. Where are we? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you were saying, quote, keep me informed or if there's a need for a strong leg, end quote, meaning you would build one. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the next section says, quote, or a need for some distinctive document writing, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
What were you suggesting, to become employed by the company?
Yeah. Mr. Berger. Oh.
Mr. Berger.
Your Honor, objection, leading.
The court says it is cross.
Mr. Berger says it's adverse to us, Your Honor.
The court says all right. And
Mr. Smith says, I'll rephrase, Your Honor, if I may.
court says of course.
Mr. Smith, what did you mean when you wrote, quote, or a need for some distinctive document writing, end quote?
I guess I was just making sure I was making sure that he understood I do something with the corporate aside, if not with the MLM side.
Kind of like indicating you're willing to do something on either side. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the next email down on Exhibit 13 is dated December 27th. To your recollection, did it take David Sterling a couple weeks to get back and respond to your letter?
I think the busier he got, the longer it took things to happen. Yeah.
Okay, and to the best of your knowledge, this was the next response. Is that fair?
Yes.
If I could blow the first paragraph up of that letter, it says, quote, even though I'm not with YL anymore, hearing of poor customer service still drives me crazy. Outside of conventions and other meetings, which only ever touch 10% of the field, you have two main faces to the company. One is the web and the other is customer service, end quote. Did it seem to you at that point in time that David Sterling was in any way against Young Living?
No.
And here it says, quote, Justin is a regional director, so for him to call you is very unusual, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Then it says, quote, other than he's one that still cares, Justin is dying to join us as a distributor, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Had you ever spoken to Justin, which I think is Justin Harrison? Have you ever spoken to Justin Harrison before this email was sent to you?
Well, before the email was sent.
Yes, this email is sent before the meeting at Noah's. Had you ever talked to Justin Harrison before that date?
I had never talked to him or met him unless it was with Carol with a K, on the phone with Carol with a K. When he called her, she called him.
So you may have spoken to him previously involving Carol Truman's business.
Yes.
Do you remember that at all? Or did you, if you did or did not?
I don't remember for sure.
It says, quote, he's an excellent trainer with great knowledge, end quote. It goes on to say, quote, though he is very unhappy with YL right now, end quote. Do you see that?
Uh-huh.
Did you come to learn personally, talking to Justin Harrison, that he was very unhappy with YL?
I couldn't recall if that was the case.
You can't recall either way?
Yeah.
At some point in time, you spoke to him on the phone.
Yes.
The balance of this email, if you go down to the next paragraph, the beginning, quote, I feel badly for my slow response to your last letter. I wanted to be able to respond after some in-depth study to some of your thoughts and questions, but life's been a little difficult for various reasons as of late, end quote. Did David Sterling then go on to write some very personal things to you in the balance of that email? You cited some scriptures to him and talk about difficult things in his life. Is that the email he sent to you?
Yeah, that was probably like a lot of emails.
Why would he share personal information with you in scriptures from time to time?
We both just did that. That was a common thing with us. We served our mission together and had a lot of interest in the gospel.
Let me go to the next exhibit shown to you, Exhibit 15. Mr. Smith, if I could display the first paragraph that was read, this was an email. I think there's one more in there. Hang on. I have the timing off. I need to go to Exhibit 14. Sorry, my documents were out of order. Open your book to Exhibit 14.
Okay.
Exhibit 14. This was sent. There's two emails. The first one is the first one here. It's, as counsel correctly pointed out, these emails, depending on who the server is, sometimes prints them backwards. Another oldest first and soonest last, and sometimes soonest first and oldest last. Just depends.
Yes.
This one in this email, oldest appears at the top, dated December 28th. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Is that the day of the meeting at Noah's that you had been invited to in that last email dated the 27th?
I believe so. Yes.
If you look down here somewhere, it says somewhere about the 5th paragraph, quote, I understand it's at 1:30, end quote, meaning of the meeting at Noah's, quote, but you didn't mention where, end quote. Do you see that email?
Uh-huh.
Did you then make a trip to that Noah's meeting on that day, Friday, December 18th?
Yes.
And when you made it to that Noah's meeting, how did you? Did you go on your own means, or did David Sterling pay for you to go there?
No, we were in pretty dire straits financially. We actually borrowed the money to go to the meeting from my father-in-law.
And how long was that meeting? How long did it last? Do you remember?
It seems like somewhere in my deposition, we discovered it was 2 hours long.
Okay. Up above this quote in the paragraph number 3, it says, quote, you offered a kind and exciting invitation to come to a meeting up there, which I would feel honored to attend, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Why did you feel that way?
I guess we were so desperate for a change in our lives and new opportunity that this is like a godsend to us.
And
That's
the
so
next
fun.
I know. And the next paragraph it says, quote, if weather permits, I would like to attend. It's kind of late to get a babysitter, so in talking to Wendy, she recommended that I take Brandon. She's worried about me being alone and let him play with his cousins, end quote. Is Brandon one of your sons?
Yes.
You pointed to the back. Did you go to that meeting by yourself or did you take Wendy?
Wendy.
So Wendy did come up to the meeting at Noah's.
Yes.
On the next page, on the second paragraph down from the top, it says, quote, so if I can borrow, end quote. You probably meant to say if I, quote, if I could bother, end quote. Quote, if I could bother you for the address to your meeting, I will try not to pester your feedback for a while, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then the next paragraph, 2 more down, quote, despite my recent setback in speech, end quote. What did you mean by that?
Probably my ability to talk well.
And do you speak better now than you did back then, or is it pretty much the same? You speak pretty good now.
I don't feel like I speak well. I'm probably about the same.
Okay, it says, quote, despite my recent setback in speech, I feel one of my best qualities, besides writing, is that of a great presenter, organizer, and recruiter. I've been successful in building, managing, and motivating downlines for both YL and PureWorks MLM companies, end quote. Is that correct?
Yes.
What is PureWorks MLM?
PureWorks was a company. They made a hand sanitizer and sold it as a kit with several other products.
It was an MLM as well, I take it?
Don't worry, Karina. You're fine.
Uh-oh. No, no, you're fine, Karina.
So PureWorks was a hand sanitizer. Let's see. He was wait, where are you?
I don't know. What is PureWorks MLM line 14?
PureWorks was a company. They made a hand sanitizer and sold it as a kit with several other products.
It was an MLM as well, I take it.
Correct.
Were you involved in that one as a distributor or helping like you did on the Carol with a K?
No, I was a distributor.
Did you build, manage, and motivate a downline under that MLM?
We didn't have much of a downline, but yes.
What was the reason for saying this to David Sterling? Were you kind of looking for a job interview or putting your hat into the hat if a position was available?
I'm sure I was trying to, make good to David, trying to impress him, tell him I had experience in MLMs.
Had David Sterling, as of this date, told you that he could not recruit any Young Living distributor to your recollection?
Can't remember.
Let's turn back to the email dated just before this, December 27th, down on exhibit number 13 in the first paragraph. First paragraph of David Sterling's email to you dated December 27th, 2007. Do you see the sentence down there? After Justin Harrison, it says, quote, however, I can't talk to him for another 3 months. Parentheses, contractual non-solicit, close parentheses, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Did David Sterling tell you that he was unwilling to talk to employees and distributors during this time period?
Probably so, yes.
Did he ever ask you to speak to some Young Living distributors on his behalf?
No.
And then back to Exhibit 14, you sent the email on the 28th and talked about, despite your setback in speech, David Sterling responded. Accurate?
Okay.
And then the next email down on page 2, it's dated the 30th, which would be the day after the NOAA's meeting. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
And that was from David Sterling?
Yes.
And that first paragraph is the only one I'm going to focus on. It says, quote, "It was great to see you and Wendy again. I can't believe you drove all the way up from St. George just to attend our meeting, but I'm glad you did." End quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Were you the only ones from St. George there?
Yes.
And the council read some portions of Exhibit 33 into the record. Do you have Exhibit 33 in front of you?
Yes.
It's my understanding that you wrote the second, third, and fourth pages of Exhibit 33. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yes.
There's no date on it. Can you tell us when you wrote those?
I can't.
So you think it was accurate. You just can't tell us the date. Is that fair?
Correct.
Now, the email, there's another email that's there with it. Does that refresh your memory as to the date in any way on the face page of that?
January 3rd.
Would that be about the time you wrote that, do you think?
I don't know.
Can we at least agree you wrote it after you went down to Noah's on December 29th?
Yes.
Sometime in that time period.
Yes.
As of the date you wrote this email, is it fair to say that you had not sat down with David Sterling to talk about that position you might be able to have or fulfill with regard to doTERRA? Gosh darn it, Mr. Berger. Okay.
Objection, leading your honor.
Court says overruled.
Witness?
Yes, we hadn't.
Mr. Smith, and you wrote that in the email there. Is that correct? The fourth paragraph down of your email.
Yes.
So as of that day, did you even know what you might want to do with the new company that was being formed? That is, by the first week of January 2008.
I know my wife was not interested in an MLM. She was really anti-MLM.
No!
But we were excited to do something with doTERRA.
Oh,
was she really anti-MLM?
man.
I mean, that is pretty cool, but like, she was in the process.
Oh my gosh.
That's really interesting to know.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of people are not happy
Where's
with
she at?
MLM.
Wendy, where are you at?
I think she's what is her this is Rob James. Is it Wendy James? Hold on. Well 1 second. I'm just gonna look at the doTERRA website real quick.
Anti-MLM. That term wasn't used that much back then.
Google. So there's several people that I looked up on doTERRA's founding members that are still there that are listed in this lawsuit. I'm going to put it up on the screen for y'all. Hold on. David Sterling, what up, buddy? Okay. Oh, look, we got Emily Wright too. Oh, let me put it up on the screen. Stop, share.
It was Wendy.
Yep. Okay. Okay, so here's Emily Wright. She is one of the defendants in this lawsuit. She's a public figure. She's the founding executive and president. We've heard from David Hill before. David Sterling. This is the guy that keeps getting mentioned in the lawsuit.
Greg Cook. He was the original name of doTERRA.
Yep.
Greg Cook Boyles.
I don't know, or Rob. Let's see. Founding. There's a page for distributors. I need to find it though.
Yeah, not now. Not as big as now by any means.
Yep.
Definitely.
Okay. So where are they? Let's see. Boyd and Sandy Truman, they're listed in the lawsuit. Roger and Teresa Harding. Where are they? Rob and Wendy James. Right here.
There they are.
This is the guy who's talking right now. Rob James is the one who's talking. as the witness right now. So they've done
He said
well.
his wife was anti-MLM.
Yep. So they are big in doTERRA, or they used to be big. And let's see, anyone else? Terry and Lil Shepherd. Lil Shepherd is one of the defendants in this case too. They are big in doTERRA. I keep saying Young Living, I'm sorry. And Truman.
Truman.
Yep.
Where's
Truman.
Carol with a K?
Yeah, where is Carol with a K? We have to find her. Okay, let's stop screen share. Let's add the window back with the transcript. Okay. Where? I'm sorry, so am I on line 9 or
13 was she was really anti-MLM, but we were excited to do something with doTERRA.
Okay. A lot of people are not happy with MLMs. Did your wife explain why she was unhappy?
She says because she's not a salesman, she's not a salesperson.
Okay.
But she's great now.
Okay. She didn't think she was qualified at the time, but she's turned a new leaf. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yes.
In the paragraph that was read regarding Operation Smooth Move, there's a box over here with Smooth Move on it. Did you come up with that name, or is that just a name that's patented or somehow trademarked, copyrighted by you? Mr. Berger, gosh darn it. Let me go back up, sorry.
Mr. Berger, objection, Your Honor. Foundation, relevance, leading.
The court says overruled. And witness, no, I think me and Thomas Oldroyd came up with the name, and we haven't patented or anything like that.
Mr. Smith, was it before they started anything on boxes? Do you know?
I'm sure. I have no idea. I've never seen that before.
In this portion of the email that was read in, it says, quote, primarily the Trumans and Oldroyds, end quote. Then it goes on, quote, Wendy and I would call this Operation Smooth Move, end quote. Do you see that?
Uh-huh.
That's a yes?
Yes.
That's okay. Uh-huhs and uh-huhs don't come across very clear. I'm sorry. Oh, that's you, sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So Operation Smooth Move, who came up with that name?
I think it was me and Thomas. I don't remember.
And you mentioned Wendy. Did she play a part in picking that name, or was she still not part of the MLM game yet?
Probably not yet.
You mentioned in there that the people you were targeting would be, you have a list. You said, quote, big fish like Trumans, end quote. Who were the Trumans you were referring there to?
Carol and Delmont, Boyd and Sandy, Gina and Tom.
Okay, so in your mind, you were going to target them. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Then it says, quote, Justin Harrison, end quote. You were going to target him?
Yes.
Why were you going to target him?
Just because I knew from our conversations that he was interested in coming over.
Okay, that email that you referenced a moment ago?
Yes.
How about Thomas Oldroyd? Why did you identify him?
Because he was in the Young Living line with Tina. So I think big fish, we considered big fish people that were either making money with, big money with an MLM, or just in Young Living's downline.
Okay, so big fish either meant making money or just with YL.
Yeah.
Was Thomas Oldroyd a big fish making a lot of money or just with YL?
Just with YL.
And Thomas Oldroyd at the time was the spouse to Gina Oldroyd?
Yes, correct.
Was this before they became separated and he moved to Hawaii?
Yes.
Did you identify Thomas Oldroyd separately from Gina Truman in this email, or was it Gina Truman under the name Truman and only Thomas Oldroyd was under there?
No, I list them separate. I think probably to get more names out there made me look like I had a big dream going on.
And Marcella Von Harding, who is she?
I don't know.
Is she Gary Young's sister?
I don't know.
How did you get her name?
Either from Carol with a K and hearing her conversations or through the internet or something like that.
Okay, if you saw Marcella Von Harding, if she had been in the room earlier, you wouldn't know or would know.
No, I wouldn't know.
Terry Williams, who is that?
Same thing, I don't know.
Dastrups, who are they?
They were a couple in St. George. I met them once.
Were they with Young Living?
Yes.
Have you done anything for them?
No.
How about Sherry Ross? Who's she? Who is she?
Also a Young Living person, but I don't remember meeting her or knowing her.
How did Operation Smooth Move work out for you?
It didn't. I mean, well,
Who of those groups on there of the Trumans did? Were you able to recruit Carol Truman at any point in time up to today?
we kind of tried with Carol Truman. She was a little bit hesitant to do anything because she was receiving a big paycheck from Young Living.
Oh, wow. So is Gina Truman her daughter? Is that who came over to doTERRA?
I think.
So Gina Truman is the 5th member of the U.S. Founders Club, joined in 2008. I wonder if her mom is still with Young Living and she moved over. We'll have to find out.
Maybe that's why we couldn't find Carol with the K on that page.
Carol with a K, what up? All right, am I on line 23?
12. Did she
Right.
come? Yeah.
Did she come over to doTERRA?
No.
Was she willing to come over to doTERRA?
Delmont at one time wanted to, but her and I think him and Carol talked it over and decided just not to.
Your voice kind of dropped. What did you say at the end there?
Carol and Delmont talked it over and decided that at some point it wasn't in their best interest to come over.
Did you understand at the time that Carol Truman could have a distributorship with doTERRA and one with Young Living at the same time? Did you understand that?
I didn't.
One way or the other, you didn't understand?
Yeah, I figured if they'd come over, they'd have to start over.
Okay, did you recruit Justin Harrison?
It became apparent that David had other plans for him, but I wanted to leave the door open for him to be in our line. I wanted him to.
You called Mr. Harrison in an effort to have him come down. Is that correct? Do you remember that?
No.
You talked when you were examined by counsel. You said there was a phone call that you had with Justin Harrison.
That was, yes.
And that was in February. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you called him with Gina?
Yes.
And you indicated that was at your home.
Yes.
And who else was on the line besides you and Gina?
Wendy.
All 3 of you were on the line and you called Justin Harrison?
Yeah, I think we're on speaker telephone.
So you called him to get him to do something. What were you trying to get him to do?
I guess it could have been to come down and do a meeting, yeah.
You were trying to get him to be a part of your line as suggested here?
Yeah.
How about Thomas Oldroyd? Did he ever join your line?
I think he got separated before. He could have joined.
Marcella Van Harding, you said she did not join.
No.
Terry Williams, did she join? Is that a he or a she?
I don't know.
Did that person join?
No.
Dastrips, did you cause them to join?
No. I think I wrote letters to all of these people, but there was no interest.
Sherry Ross, did she join?
No.
Counsel also asked you said, quote, Wendy and I codenamed Trueline, end quote. Do you see that email there that he read to you?
Yes.
That's a yes?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Who came up with that name, Trueline?
You know, the company I worked for at the time doing logistics for trucking was called Trueline.
Okay, so you kind of got it from the trucking company.
Yeah.
Let me turn your attention to the next email, Exhibit 34. These are two emails, appears to be one from you and then a response from David Sterling. Let's talk about your first. On the second page, your email is dated January 16th. It says, quote, Wendy is dying because she is about out of most of the little vials you sent us home with. She's been busy, end quote. Do you see that first sentence?
Yes. Do we want to talk about the stars?
Yes, we do. Yep, we do. There's 3, yes. Let me go ahead and pull this. Let me pull off Mr. Smith.
With the K.
Yep.
Cat with the K.
Yes. Okay, starred
Oh,
questions. Here's the first one. Marcella Van Harding is Mary's best friend from her MLM days with Sunrider International before Young Living. Oh, wow. Christy, giving us all the tea. That's
Mary,
awesome.
Mary. Wow.
Carol Truman wrote "Feelings buried alive never die." What? Okay, I'm googling this. Hold on. Holy crap! It's a book. Carol K. Amazon. What up? Oh my gosh. Carol Truman provides a comprehensive and enlightening resource for getting in touch with unresolved feelings, which she explains can distort not only happiness but also health and well-being, leaving no emotion unnamed. And in fact, listing around 750 labels for feelings. Truman
Is she a
helped.
mental health professional?
No, it looks like it's just Carol with a K Truman. Oh my gosh.
Interesting.
I don't see. Oh, she doesn't have a shirt. It's just a weird. Oh, she's revised it. Wait, who? I was thinking if she had anyone good who reviewed her book for her and gave her a review, but dang. Interesting. You can get it on Amazon for $17.95. Oh my gosh.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, no way. Marcella co-wrote the cult book? Wow. Okay.
And Marcella is the first distributor, was the first distributor in Young Living.
Wow. That's insane. That's insane in a good way. And I would have no idea.
That's wild.
That book is the reason I left Young Living. So it's the thing that started the whole leaving process. So okay.
Started the ball rolling.
Yep. Oh, we binged. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me blow my nose real quick. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes, we can all do it. Dave with the K. Christy with the K. You personally have to say Christy with the K multiple. See, I can see that. Hearing or maybe getting that mixed up with like Chrissy. Chrissy, wake up.
I don't like it. Oh my God.
Hey,
Okay.
hello.
Oh my gosh, y'all are the best. Okay. Another being, yes, you're excited. Okay, let me go ahead and add this up. Okay.
I don't like this.
Are we at the top of the page on this one?
Yes.
Okay, great. When you say, quote, she's been busy, end quote, does that mean she's been slathering herself with the oil or she's been handing it out trying to get distributors?
I think she was handing it out, yeah.
Okay, and then the balance of that email looks to me like it's pretty much personal. The first paragraph says, quote, Ty has a kidney bruise, and Dallin, our boy, had a panic attack, and Wendy suffered a severe burn. Wendy's friend Carrie ended up in a dump truck, end quote. Rear-ended by a dump truck, end quote. Not, quote, ended up in a dump truck. I mean, whatever. Quote, that was a bad accident. And then it says, quote, we kept Brandon home because he was, end quote. Is that the rest of that email pretty much just you sharing with David Sterling? Apparently everything that happens in your ward, family, and everything else in town. Sidebar, a ward in the Mormon church is your like church group that you are assigned to based on like where you live, from what I understand. So it's like if y'all are wondering about the ward, you can Google it probably to better explain it, but that's what they're talking about. Okay. Oh, I forgot to put up Mr. Smith. Okay. Happens in your ward, family, and elsewhere in town.
It seems that way, yeah.
And then David Sterling wrote back to your email, if we could go to the front page, it says in the second paragraph, David Sterling wrote to you and he said, quote, it is so nice to be in that office again, end quote. Did you understand this meant the first time he had been in an office since he was fired back in August of 2007?
Whoa. I can't see that page.
Oh, sorry. Oh, dang it. Okay, it got stopped sharing. Yep. Live stream, what are you doing to me? Okay, we're going to get it back in a second. Stop broadcast. Start broadcast. Okay. H.
Katsumis are the best.
All right. They turn on pop up. Or make this smaller. Okay. All right. Add to stream. We're back. Are we back? We're back. Okay. August of 2007. Perfect.
Yes, I'm sure.
Then he describes the place, a little place set up, and there are computers up and whatnot. Then he goes on in the next paragraph to say, quote, we are going to have our second meeting number 2 this Saturday, end quote. Did you go to that meeting? Do you know? It would have been about, if this is Wednesday, the 16th, it would have been the 18th, 19th, 20th, or something like that of January. Do you know if you went up to that meeting or not?
I believe so.
You traveled up again by car?
Yes.
Did you go with anyone?
I'm not sure.
It says, quote, we'll be giving out 5mm bottles before you jump in your car. How about you just send me your home address and I'll send you some more samples? Did you still come up if he said he was going to send them to you?
I remember we didn't go up.
You did not go up?
Yes.
Did he send you samples?
Yes.
In the 5th paragraph down under big news, he told you that, quote, I finally managed to get one of the best marketing executives on board, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you know who that person was?
I'm not sure.
Okay, but as of this date, mid-January, he was still looking for a marketing executive. Is that correct? Or had just found one to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, I imagine that was Rob Young. Oh, we saw him on the page too.
Yep, we did see him on the page. Who was formerly with New Skin, which is an MLM.
Yes.
He mentions here this guy was formerly with New Skin. Is that the Rob Young you're thinking of?
Yes.
And then they read in a paragraph to you, which is the next one down, at least a portion of it, quote, I am so anxious to start talking strategies with you, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Did David Sterling in Talking Strategies, the section I want to look at, is the concept of recruiting of existing YL distributors. Did David Sterling ever discuss the concept of recruiting existing Young Living distributors with you?
I don't recall that. No.
At some point in time, did you and David Sterling talk about if YL distributors would be good to have added to the company or not? Do you remember?
I remember at some point, it may have been down the line, I got the impression that they wanted to back off from going after Young Living people.
Do you have the original deposition transcript or is it up there, Mr. Berger?
Mr. Berger, he has it.
And then, Mr. Smith, let me turn your attention to the deposition that you had, page 40.
Sure.
If you would read to yourself, counsel read to you both, had you read both copies on each side of this one. This is page 40, lines 18 through 21. Can you read those to yourself for a moment?
Okay, 18 to what?
21. Oh, wait.
Your Honor can't read it before a question is pending. Mr. Smith, oh, dang it.
Mr. Smith, he said he didn't recall if he had a conversation on the subject. Same subject discussed.
And the court says I'll allow him to read it to himself, and you can pose the question.
Does that refresh your recollection of a conversation with David Sterling on the subject of YL distributors?
I'm sorry, not really.
Mr. Smith, I'd like to read it, Your Honor. Recollection reported.
Is this the depot? The court asked.
Mr. Berger, Your Honor, he doesn't get to read it, trying to refresh the witness's recollection. I had that same issue and was not allowed to read the testimony.
Mr. Smith, he did not offer it the same way. Prior recollection reported. I get to read it in, and I forgot to highlight this.
Mr. Berger says it has to be contemporaneous, Your Honor.
Mr. Smith, just has to be.
Mr. Berger, that's not what.
The court says, are you under 803? Cite me the rule that you're looking to use here. Under 803-5, that would be something that, well,
803-5, it's still allowed to be read in, Your Honor. That is the section. May I read it?
I've got it up. Approach. And a sidebar discussion was had.
And I forgot to highlight, but Mr. Smith, I'm reading from the deposition taken on March 19th, 2014, questions asked of the witness by Mr. Toth, line 18. Quote, question, okay, but early on he talked about how it would be important to transition some of the Young Living field to this new oil company, end quote. Excuse me.
Mr. Berger, could counsel complete that question?
Mr. Smith, yes, I've got to go back up. It actually starts at line 12. I'll finish down there, 21. Line 12, quote, didn't he tell you at some point that one of the strategies to build a new company was to transition some of the Young Living field to the new company? Answer, it might have been, but he also later on in our discussions talked about how it was negative to bring Young Living people in. Question, but early on, he talked about how it would be important to transition some of the Young Living field to this new oil company, didn't he? Answer, I think so, end quote. Does that refresh your memory, sir? That he indicated to you at some point in time that it was negative to transfer any Young Living field to the new company?
And yes.
And other than Gina Truman and Boyd Truman, did any other Young Living field transfer to doTERRA that you're aware of that you had personal connections with?
Not as a result of our work, yeah.
I apologize. When I read that quote a moment ago, counsel already read that last section, lines 18 through 21. I was pointing out he did not read lines 12 through 14. Let me go to Exhibit 15. This appears to be the next in order that was marked by the attorney. It's in evidence, and it's dated January 27th, 2008. There's 2 paragraphs that were read. The first paragraph, first, let's go to the back page of the first email from David Sterling to you. And the back email is from you to David Sterling. Is that correct?
Yes.
On the back email, you sent that on January 24th, 2008. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you call him, quote, David, my brother, end quote. Is that typical for you to call him, quote, David, my brother, end quote, and he called you, quote, James, my brother, end quote? Is that kind of how that worked?
Yeah, or vice versa.
One or the other?
Yeah.
Now, your email, would you say that your email is almost entirely about your personal life? You've got some scriptures in there again. I don't see any business in there. But if you can point any out to the jury, I'm sure I'd like to. In the last 2 paragraphs of your email, in the last page, after you go through all these scriptures, you talk about some neighbors. You go, quote, I'll say it again. We're so excited to get things going. Last Wednesday, we helped the Trumans do an oil seminar for almost 40 people, end quote. Do you see that?
I'm sorry, I don't see it.
It would be on this last page.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Those 2 paragraphs.
Yeah, I see it.
Did that mean you had a seminar with the Trumans sometime in January where you had 40 people come over?
Yes.
At that meeting, Mr. Harrison wasn't there, right?
No.
Let me understand. This Living Essentials that's mentioned there, I think you said at Living Essentials that Living Essentials is Carol Truman, correct?
Correct.
You're saying that you had an oil seminar for Carol Truman and that it had nothing to do with doTERRA. Is that correct?
Mr. Berger, objection, leading, Your Honor.
The court says overruled. And the witness, yes.
Mr. Smith said, in other words, did doTERRA have anything to do with anything at that meeting whatsoever?
No.
Okay. And then you said, quote, give us the word, our feet will definitely hit the ground running, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Does that mean that as of January 27th, you hadn't started doing anything with regard to doTERRA yet? Mr. Berger says,
objection, leading, Your Honor.
The court says overruled. And back to witness, yeah, not a lot.
What had you done, if anything? Oh, if any. Elaine Bretteroff said so many times, what if any, to like ask questions and stuff in the trial for Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It was funny. Okay. What had you done, if anything?
Approach the Trumans.
Okay. And you mentioned you've got a marketing genius and marketing guru. Who is that person?
Rob Young.
Okay. You said Rob Young. You said, quote, I have a very good friend, end quote. Is that still Rob Young?
I'm sorry.
In that last paragraph, quote, I have a very good friend that would be incredible. He's a marketing genius, end quote. Who's that person?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did he come on, work for you in the doTERRA field at all?
I can't recall.
Okay. And then back at the top of this email, which is dated January 27th, it says, very first paragraph from David Sterling to you, I always love getting your epistles, end quote. First page of Exhibit 15, first paragraph, quote, I always love getting your epistles. People who get excited as you about learning, experiencing, obtaining blessings are far and few between. I too love and can share our thoughts and learn, which I do from every communication, end quote. Was that directed really to any doTERRA business, or was that directed to what was described as an epistle, more on church doctrine for you?
More on church doctrine.
Was the balance of Dave Sterling's email to you essentially things that were happening with his family and his daughter, Lacey?
Yeah, that's what I read.
The last paragraph on page 2, he talks about doTERRA, the paragraph that starts with, quote, now here's the question. Do you see that email? Quote, is it possible for you to come up north for some meetings this Tuesday, end quote. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Quote, I realize you are actually employed, unlike some of us, and have to please an employer. I'd like to discuss some serious strategies about an EDR, as well as your smooth move, as well as other things, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Did you go up and meet with him?
Yes.
Would that have been sometime after January 27th, 2008, the date of this email?
Yes.
Do you remember, were there more than one person in the meeting when you met with them, or do you know?
Yes, more than one.
I missed that answer.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, who else was there?
I don't remember.
Okay, after that meeting, did you come to an understanding of maybe how you could help in the doTERRA business?
Yes, I think we talked more about what our role would be.
And what did you decide your role would be?
A distributor.
Okay, let me turn your attention to the next document in order. It's exhibit number 35, and it's dated February 7th, 2008. In the email, this first email at the bottom, it's at 9 o'clock in the morning. It says, from you to David, quote, I want to write you about Thomas, end quote. Is that Thomas Oldroyd?
Yes.
Thomas Oldroyd, who was married at the time to Gina Truman.
Correct.
And you indicate in this email, in the first paragraph, something about him leaving and going to Hawaii, and they're separated. Is that what that's about?
Correct.
And then you get down into the body. 3 paragraphs are read by counsel. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but in that body down with the paragraph starting with, quote, Gina, his wife, end quote.
Yes.
I'm going to go back up one more. In the email, in the paragraph that starts with, quote, anyway, he has left the Provo area and went to Hawaii, end quote. It says in there, the next sentence, quote, Gina, his wife, has been left with taking care of loose ends in St. George, end quote. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did she stay in St. George?
Yes, for a while.
So as of February 7th, she was still residing in St. George.
I believe so.
Okay. And then the other paragraphs talk about Gina, quote, Gina, his wife, end quote. And the third from the bottom, quote, is now fully aware of doTERRA and is, to say the least, very, very excited about the new opportunity, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Why did you write that?
I think just to let Sterling know that we were engaged in doing things, getting people on board.
Had she committed to, in your mind, to becoming a doTERRA distributor?
I think she had at that point.
By February 7th?
Yeah.
And I think this is the day someone testified earlier, the day that of the conversation with Mr. Harrison that was talked about the three of you. Would that seem consistent with your recollection day that this email was the same day you talked about Mr. Harrison's call?
Yes.
Was she, in your mind, committed to doTERRA at the same time of the call to Mr. Harrison? Or did she still have some questions outstanding?
I think at the time that she was committed to doTERRA, but I think in retrospect, she probably had some questions.
Okay, why do you say in retrospect she had questions? What makes you think that?
Where did I go?
Line 19.
Oh, okay, there you go. Because I remember her saying it wasn't until she talked to Boyd, her brother, and found out how interested he was that she became more interested.
Okay, when did she tell you that? Do you remember?
I don't know.
And then it's in the third paragraph from the bottom, second paragraph. It says, quote, and we are all, Wendy, Gina, and I, thinking at some point of a visit from you or Justin, end quote. You're talking about having, sorry. My external hard drive just disconnected, sorry. And it says, oh wait, I don't know where I am. From your Justin, you're talking about having David Sterling come down. Is that correct?
Yes.
And at some point in time, did Justin come down, in fact?
Yes.
And do you remember when that was?
I don't remember.
There's an email that you wrote that is dated. I don't think, maybe it wasn't marked, Exhibit 221. Sorry, Exhibit 221 is on the board. It says, here it was written on Thursday, February 28th at 11:27. Do you see that?
Yes.
And it says, quote, I just want to give a quick report, end quote. If you could blow that first paragraph up, quote, I just want to give a quick report on the meeting before heading to bed, end quote. Was there a meeting on the night of February 28th, 2008?
Yes.
And does that refresh your memory as of the date of the meeting?
Yes.
Did you write this email?
Yes.
The same day of the meeting?
Yes.
As it says, quote, just before going to bed, end quote?
Yes.
In that email, you said, quote, anyway, even the YL crowd was impressed, end quote. Who did you mean by the, quote, the YL crowd, end quote?
I'd assume Gina and Boyd, if they're there, and Sandy and Carol.
Carol with a K. First, was Carol there?
I can't remember for sure.
Okay, and was Boyd there? Can you remember for sure if he was there?
I don't remember for sure.
How about Sandy? Was she there?
She might have been there.
Okay, Sandy may have come to the meeting.
For a minute, yeah.
More likely her in your mind than the other two. Is that what you're telling us?
Correct.
Gina, she was there because this was her house?
Yes.
It was at her house, right?
Yes.
Any other YL other than perhaps Gina and more likely Sandy than anyone else in referencing, quote, the YL crowd was impressed, end quote.
I think Gordon and Julia Herbert.
Were they there?
I think so.
Okay. Anyone else?
I don't believe so.
And why did you send it to David Sterling that night before you went to bed?
Just wanted to update him on the meeting we had that day.
Was he there at the meeting?
No.
Was Emily Wright at the meeting?
No.
You had some other names up there. Was Greg Cook at the meeting?
No.
Was Jeff Carden a lawyer at the meeting?
No.
And was Dr. Hill at the meeting?
No.
Why did you send it to all those people?
Because they were there.
And I went a little out of order, but I'm going to go back now to Exhibit 39. This is before that meeting. It's dated the 23rd. Actually, the bottom one is the 22nd. Do you recall Friday, the week before, if the other meeting was on the 28th? That would be like a week later. This is on the 22nd. Do you recall writing this email to Mr. Sterling?
I don't recall writing it, but I'm sure I did.
In the first paragraph, it looks to me like you had a communication with Carol. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And it says, quote, she was quite upset when she asked me to tell her about you, end quote. What did that mean? She was asking for information about what David Sterling was doing?
Yes.
How do you know she seemed upset?
I don't remember the conversation, but
And she says you say down below, quote, she proceeded to warn me about you, end quote. What did she tell you that made you feel like she was warning you generally? Let me withdraw that question. Did you, at this point in time, Carol Truman was still on your list of who you thought you could smooth move, end quote, over?
Yes.
Did she fall off the list about this point in time?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it says in the next paragraph on that bottom page, it says, quote, I found it a little amusing and came to some conclusions, end quote. Then you say, quote, they are testifying. Testilying? Oh, God, they are testilying, end quote. What does testilying mean?
Interesting word. I don't know.
You put, quote, on spreading fraudulent untruths about you personally, end quote. Do you see that part of the sentence?
Yes.
Was there something you thought was negative being said by Carol Truman about David Sterling in this call?
Apparently, but I don't remember what.
Okay. And then the next paragraph on that next page, you say, quote, obviously she's been chatting with Mary or Gary, end quote. Why did you say that?
Probably because of the negative things she was saying came from them, I guess.
And then it says down in the bottom, quote, she also went to my mother-in-law and drilled her about you, end quote. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Who was your mother-in-law?
Pat, leave it.
Was she at one of any of the meetings in St. George regarding the doTERRA product?
Yes.
Which meeting did she attend?
I know she was at the Coral Canyon meeting.
We call sometimes the Coral Canyon the clubhouse meeting.
Correct.
She was at that one?
Yes, probably at the one at Gina's house.
You don't remember if she was at Gina's or not?
I don't remember for sure.
We'll have her in to tell us. Did she join Pat Levitt joined doTERRA?
Yes.
On the request for admission, request for information, Exhibit 86, number 13, you'll have to go all the way over to page 13. Counsel said that you made some statements which were inaccurate when you signed this. Do you remember him asking those questions?
Yeah.
You're going to have to help me. Tell me which one was inaccurate. It says, quote, I, Robert and Wendy James, hereby solicit and request information regarding products and opportunities associated with doTERRA International, end quote. Was that accurate?
Where is that? Yes.
Quote, the company is requiring this request for information before discussing or describing the company, its business, products, or opportunities therewith, end quote. Was that accurate, Mr. Berger?
Asked and answered, Your Honor.
The court says overruled. Back to witness. Yes.
All right, Mr. Smith, quote, I acknowledge that I have initiated any and all contact and communication with the company and have pursued such information without invitation, solicitation, or request from the company, any of its owners, officers, agents, or employees, end quote. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Read the balance. Is there anything that's inaccurate about that now that you read the whole?
No.
Does it say anywhere in there that you hadn't spoken to David Sterling about doTERRA beforehand?
No.
As you read it now, do you believe that to be fully accurate when you signed your name to it?
Yes.
And I take it that you still don't recall the circumstances under which you signed that which has been marked as Exhibit 86-13.
Sorry, no.
I have no other questions. One more, sorry. Sorry, there is one more. I failed to mark it. Exhibit 1161. I don't think it's in yet. Let me get it for you. On Exhibit 1161, is that an email that you sent to David Sterling on or about March 6, 2008?
Yes.
It is that a response that Dave Sterling sent to you on or about March 7th, up above.
Yes.
I move Exhibit 1161 into evidence.
Mr. Berger said no objection.
The court says I'll receive it.
Mr. Smith, on the bottom email, this March date, this would have been after the February 28th meeting at Gina's house, right?
Yes. Okay.
A week later, correct?
Yes.
And on the bottom line, or on the bottom, you said something about you wanted to give feedback that came from Carol Truman about Young Living. And then you talk more about stuff about him having a church commune down in Ecuador. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that something you learned from Carol?
I believe so.
Then down below in the next paragraph, it says, quote, I hold Carol there that you haven't been to 3 meetings now, and there have been no slanderous things or rumors that have been said, end quote. Are you referencing Young Living? There had been nothing slanderous said by Young Living.
Correct.
Let's go up to David Sterling's response to you. In David Sterling's response to you, he says, quote, I'm so glad you're helping to balance Carol and others' views, end quote. What did you understand that to mean?
He was happy. I was kind of there to tell their side of the story. He was happy I was kind of there to tell their side of the story.
He says, quote, you're correct in that there has been no disparagement from us, nor will there be, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Was that accurate as far as you were concerned?
Yes.
I'm receiving reports of an organized effort to instill fear and doubt in Young Living distributors, some of it rather comical, end quote. Do you think that was accurate at the time?
I had no reason to believe it wasn't.
Had some of the comments made to you by Carol been consistent with that, an organized effort to instill fear and doubt about doTERRA, as far as you were concerned?
Yeah, they could have been.
And then you described maybe those as character attacks on David Sterling. Did you agree with his next sentence? Quote, as I mentioned to you a while back, I'm not accustomed to this sort of character attacks, end quote. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And then if we go on to the next paragraph, it says, I'm missing, there it is, quote, for obvious reasons, for reasons obvious to you, I did not paint a point of aggressively sharing what I did or the oils with respected friends in the past, end quote. Did he share any of the oils with you when he was with Young Living?
No.
He says, quote, I feel liberated to do so and have shared with many who are very excited in the past couple of months, end quote. Did you consider yourself to be one of those people?
Yes.
Then it says, quote, we feel guided in our efforts and blessed to have people like you and Wendy involved, end quote. Did you likewise agree with that statement?
Yes.
Now there's the next thing, quote, BTW, end quote. Do you understand that to mean by the way?
Yes.
Quote, by the way, I received a neat letter from Gina, end quote. Did you know that Gina had written to David Sterling?
No.
Did you know she had written to David Sterling about you?
No. I know no.
You didn't know that? He said, quote, I have heard nothing but great things about her and I am anxious to meet her, end quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
To your knowledge, had David Sterling ever met had David Sterling ever met Gina Truman before March 7th, 2008?
Not that I know of.
Thank you. No other questions, Your Honor. Mr. Gaylord, do you want to take a break or we can...
The court says, how long do you anticipate?
Mr. Gaylord.
Gaylord.
I don't think I have very long. Mr. Smith did a nice job of covering a lot of things I would cover. And then I think this is the wrap up of this before they start. Yeah, the next cross-examination. Okay. All right. Oh, Mr. Berger. Gosh darn it. The judge said, sorry, you're the judge.
Why don't we wrap up with this witness if that's all right with everyone? Oh no, Karen.
I only have a very tiny amount. Who knows what I'll have to do after Mr. Gaylord? A very tiny amount.
Very tiny. All right.
Mr. Gaylord said, let me start with the last exhibit. If you wouldn't mind putting that one back up for us, please. 161. I think that was 161, but if you look at the bottom of that email, the quote to and the quote from line from Rob James. Okay, so we're going to start the next video next time with this page number 233. It's been 2 hours and 20 minutes of delightful reading. Hi, Chad. What's going on? I feel like I have to go back and read all of these afterwards. And Avery, can I pop you on the screen, Avery, or is that a no? Okay. Thumbs up. Okay. All right. Avery has been in the background just managing the live chat like a champion, a pro, and she just was so nice because I was like, I need help. She's like, I will save you. So it was the best. So Avery, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Yeah. I think it helps like having someone in the background to put the stuff on the screen because as we're reading, then other people can see what other people are saying. So I think that was a win. A big win in my mind. So I really appreciate you doing that, Avery.
Anytime.
Oh my gosh. Yes, thank you, Avery. You're the best. Thank you, Avery. Oh, Avery, you're the yes. Avery is the MVP of the live stream. Let me take this. There we go. There we go. Oh my gosh, what do we think?
I mean, I felt bad after learning more about
Oh
his
my God.
history, but
We all did.
it's important context to keep in mind.
Karina was having a breakdown in the chat.
Oh my gosh, Karina, do not feel bad. We didn't know. We would have told y'all beforehand if we
didn't
knew
know.
about that. We would have not set you up for failure for sure. Oh my
starts
God.
to give us a picture as to what led to the outcome of this overall. So I think that's important.
Yep. Yep.
Avery with the K.
Avery with the K.
Dave with the
Oh my
K.
gosh. Yes. Well, so what I think I'm gonna do from what I'm gonna try to do, I found a channel with like so much film from Gary when he was in Ecuador. So I'm gonna try to start playing those in the beginning and maybe as like a trailer at the end when we log off. So like it has a good start and a good end for people just to look forward to something. Yay, Avery. Yes. Avery is the queen for sure. Oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. Karina. Claps for Avery, yes. Claps and snaps for Avery for sure. Yep. So we're gonna I think Kat, are we gonna try to stream again on Wednesday or is that work?
Yeah, we should be. My husband now he just finished yesterday not working overnight. So new MOS, new position, figure out a time. It should be good.
Awesome.
It might be
Awesome.
later.
Hey, that's cool. I'm literally like up all hours of any time, so we can do it.
She messaged me at like 2 a.m.
Oh wow.
Unintentional. That was my bad. I'm just like, I this
Text
week
me anytime, but I'm probably not awake then.
That's
and
fine.
the service that I'm using for the nanny that takes a couple weeks. They said like 2 to 6 weeks to match. So
Okay.
I'm waiting for that too.
Sweet.
Mhm.
Sweet. Well, I had a great time as usual. I think it's gonna start getting more interesting the further we get into these transcripts. Let's see. So this one, I think the cross-examination is going to finish
Right,
up.
good.
I think we're gonna see some of the sidebar conversations maybe at the end. Let's see. I'm just gonna double check.
Yeah, I was scrolling through it.
Yeah.
And then it's Justin.
Oh, great.
Cross-examination or direct examination and cross. That's the one that I highlighted. I need to finish highlighting the other part.
Perfect. So next Wednesday we are gonna do cross-examination from the second defendant's lawyer, Mr. Gaylord, of Rob James. Rob James and his wife are still founding distributor active in doTERRA, from what I understand. Mr. Polite Demon Lawyer is a bloody keeper.
And then that's the last part with him, right? And then it's the Justin Harrison direct examination.
And I'm gonna try to make I've been trying to make the little inky type of thing so I can cut it. I need to do the last one still, but I haven't. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna work on that tonight. I'm gonna work on doing chapters for this one because I know sometimes people just want to get their questions answered and we're trying to do the most, and but we're trying. Oh my gosh. Oh, Sky, I'll be streaming late tonight probably, and I know I think Aaron's streaming tonight too with Dre and Julie Joe, so that'll be fun for people.
I think it's relatively soon.
Yep,
I like streaming. I might try to stream tomorrow actually.
Oh yeah, that's
fun.
awesome. Yeah. I really like live streaming. I like the conversations. It's harder obviously when you're reading a transcript, but y'all being able to talk to each other, like watching something together, it's almost like getting to watch a movie together, which is like my jam of hanging out. And I do like that. I do like that part the best. So Kat, you'll have to tell us when you're gonna live stream tomorrow so we can all book it and watch you on your channel. Like post it to Instagram or post it to your channel so we can.
If I don't get cold feet.
Don't get cold feet. Well, live chat, we'll be so nice to you. We'll be so nice. You'll be so nice.
Karina might go live right after this.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, so keep an eye out for Karina. Keep an eye out for Kat. Keep an eye out for Aaron, Julie, Joe, and Dre. Yeah, and we will catch you on the next live stream. So huge thank you to Avery for managing the live chat. Huge thank you to Kira, aka Mombi, who even sent us these transcripts. It's incredible that we have them. So thank you to Kira, and we'll see you next time. I'm gonna roll the outro if I can find it. Okay. Bye.
No.